Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classics and Classics. This is episode number 1753 and Doubleshot number 1647. Yes. Now, I have two comic book trades. One is a trade that collects a very quick and short-lived ongoing series that came out in 2013. The other is an Omnibus that collects the entire crossover. I'll get to that one. Okay. First up, it is Patriot, Unbreakable. Written by Lenz, artwork by Gary Brown. Yes. And it's a James Rhodes book. It's by far the first one he had at this point in 2 years. Ever since his last book ended after only 12 issues, which is the same amount as the previous run of War Machine. Yes, and this came off the heels of him quitting the Secret Avengers at the end of Volume 2. So yeah, this is what he did afterwards. Now, the thing with this book is, reading it, it feels a little bit like a Steel ripoff. One good example about this, James Rhodes has got a niece who's a mechanic. I'm like, that sounds a lot like Natasha Steele. It's like Lenz basically saw Natasha Steele over Natasha Irons over in DC Comics, like, hey, I'm gonna rip that off for this character. Yes. Now, as for why in the world Rhodey is called Iron Patriot in book, the reason why is because he took this armor, which apparently was, get this, originally the original Iron Patriot, person was Norman Osborn, who was Iron Patriot for about a year. Now, here's the weird thing, though, about that. Like, Rhodey was not the previous guy who was the Iron Patriot. Well, technically, he's only second ever one because I would think American Son, which that originally was Harry, and then it was Gable, who was only for a miniseries. But in the case of this, he got it basically still from an auction, apparently with a bunch of Iron Patriot drones, and it became Iron Patriot in the second volume for Secret Avengers. And he was there for pretty much like most of the run. It was actually, I love the Nick Spencer run for Secret Avengers. The Let's Not run, actually, I thought was pretty good. Yep, and this came out around the same time he did work on that book. Yep, the book only lasted 5 issues. Now, I did not hear an official cancellation of the book. It's just that 5 issues, I remember the solicit that when this issue came out, when this issue was solicited 8 years ago, when it was the conclusion to the story arc. And then the next month's list came out and nothing. I'm like, where the heck is Iron Patriot? Yes, my friend Edgar thought it was canceled because it was terrible. I think it was okay. It was a really weird series, mind you. Yeah. Though the weird thing about this book is that after this book was canceled, Rhodey did not appear in a comic book again for over a year until he popped up in Captain Marvel, where he started apparently dating Carol Danvers off screen. Here's the weird thing. They never explained how the heck these two hooked up. Kelly Hong just randomly had these two making out behind a barn and going off to space, pop at the end of the volume. And the thing is, Rose, after this, didn't do very much over the course of the next 9 years. Okay, so what did he do during this period of time after this book got canceled? Well, bought them Captain Marvel for a handful of issues. Then Secret Wars happened, where he lead up to Secret Wars, time runs out. He became War Machine again. He stopped beating Iron Patriot prior to this. Yeah, after this book ended, he stopped beating Iron Patriot. Now, the other reason why that he was Iron Patriot, because in Iron Man 3, he became the Iron Patriot, which... It's even pointed out in the film this was a dumb idea to do because it was too, militaristic. That's the reason why he stopped being War Machine and became the Iron Patriot. As a matter of fact, his password for the suit is War Machine Rocks. All in caps. Yes, seriously, that's his password for the damn suit in the movie. And after that movie, Rhodey never was Iron Patriot ever again. Probably because, basically, a lot of people point out, though, him being Iron Patriot was an absolute stupid idea. So when he popped up in Age of Ultron, he's War Machine again. And And here's the thing: they only probably capitalized this because he appeared that in the movie, and they probably canceled the book because basically the book wasn't selling too well. And also the reason why I haven't switched back to War Machine is because probably Kelly Sue Hunnick probably felt this though that him being Iron Patriot was a really dumb idea, so they had him stop being Iron Patriot like right after this book got canceled because here he is as War Machine, yep. And after the conclusion of that run for Kelly Sue Hunnick, of course he also appeared in the Time Runs Out stuff. And at Secret Wars, he finally returned to the Iron Man comics, where he was a supporting character in Bendis' run occasionally, and he also still occasionally appeared in the Captain Marvel book. Well, he did appear at the start of the relaunch of Secret Wars. He's there for that, and he's there somewhat. And then basically in Civil War #0, he gets killed by frickin' Thanos, and stays dead for like a year, and then he gets brought back via cloning. By the way, second time he's been cloned in the comics. Because people think, oh, that was a reason. Oh, no, that was something Greg Pak did. Of course, that was pre-planned. This is basically, Bendis basically just pulling this out of nowhere. He was resurrecting Rhodey because Bendis probably felt sorry for killing off Rhodey in the first place. So, brought back into this run. And then with the relaunch of the book, Rhodey stayed with the book for the entirety of the Dan Slott run, while still also appearing in the Captain Marvel book. But not very much, mind you, no. But at least he appears as a supporting character in the book, and the book brought back Bethany Cave first time in years, probably since Matt Fraction was in the book. And then after this run wrapped up, like, what did Rhodey do afterwards? Like, after Dan Slott stopped writing the book, he still occasionally appeared both in Iron Man and Captain Marvel, and this is what he's been doing since then, appearing as a supporting character in 2 different books. As for, you might be asking, is there any group he's currently part of right now? Is he part of the Avengers? No. Was he part of the revived crew done by the writer Black Panther? Shockingly, no. Mostly put, it's like Marvel has no idea what to do with Rhodey anymore. It's like, oh, make him a supporting character, Iron Man or Captain Marvel. That is pretty much what he's been reduced to, being a supporting character in someone else's book. Rhodey is a good character. You can appear part of the Avengers. But no, we can't do that. It would be interesting if you're part of the Savage Avengers. But as far as I can tell, there's no plans for him to do that either. Which kind of begs the question, what the heck is Marvel doing with Rhodey? The answer is not very much. I mean, the only signs of character development he gets is in the Carol Danvers book. Like, I think he's popped up a handful of times in the current Iron Man book. He appears more in Captain Marvel than he does in Iron Man. Some people probably felt this, though, he probably doesn't need another solo book because he essentially is an Iron Man character. But I kind of agree with that sentiment. I mean, does necessarily need one? Not really, no. Would I like to see another War Machine book? Yes. Yes, I would. I mean, there's probably plenty of something for him to do. It's just that Marvel is reluctant to give him one. My guess is because of this book's low sale, because of the book's terrible sales. That's my personal theory. Marvel has never downright stated that was the reason for the cancellation because of low sales, which I thought was kind of weird. That it just stopped publishing. Because Marvel has this problem. They've had this problem for a decade now. Whenever books stop, with the exception of like one time back, I think it was like in 2016. I think it was when CB Sebastian took over. Like prior, like 20th Axel when I started CB Sebastian, they actually bothered to announce like, "Hey, this book, and this book can cancel because of low sales." And here's the thing: after that, a lot of these other books don't get bothered to announce it getting canceled. It's like they just end for like no reason. This has been my biggest pet peeve of Marvel. Like, Marvel, if you're going to end a book, how about announce the book is ending? It's like, oh, this is the final issue. Okay. Fine. The whole story with the Unbreakable stuff is that Rhodey is, by the way, they introduced Rhodey's father in the book. Yes, Rhodey's father. Something I would have thought would be interesting. But no, by the end of the book, he gets killed off. I'm like, why would you do this, not? Why? It makes no frickin' sense at all. Oh, and by the way, after he ended this book, he still worked on Secret Avengers for about a couple years. And then here's the thing. Like, around the time he was ending the Secret Avengers book, that's when he got the Bucky Barnes Winter Soldier book. And after the book ended, he left Marvel. He hasn't done a book at Marvel Comics in like 7 years. Excuse me. 7 years. And this literally is like the last book to cover for his time at Marvel. I mean, if you think about it, the only writer I've covered everything at a company for him has been Percy at DC. Mostly anyways. Les Nye is probably the first person I've covered everything for him at Marvel Comics. Now, is he necessarily a bad writer? No, I don't think he is. I would say probably by far my favorite book that he wrote. He only wrote, surprisingly, 3 books in Marvel. He wrote Secret Avengers, this book, and Bucky Barnes Winter Soldier. And that was it. Yeah, that's all he wrote for Marvel. I mean, Iron Page makes sense. He did co-write him in the final issues of Secret Avengers, so, well, Nick Spencer's run. Excuse me, It's like he was there for a few years and then left. I don't know how my friend Edgar feels about this guy as a writer. Because if you think about it, what is his longest book ever did for Marvel? Secret Avengers. Like, if you combine the final 5 issues of the second volume for the series with his entire volume, that makes, get this, 21 issues. Probably by far his longest book ever did for Marvel. This one, by far, is his shortest book he ever did. Only 5 issues, and that was it. Maybe he left Marvel Comics because of the bad, like, the toxic environment at Marvel. That's possible, but I've never heard of the exact reason why he stopped working for Marvel. Yep. Alright, next up, moving on to a different book, mind you, but it's not a poll, it's on a different website, mind you. We're talking about the Omnibus for an event that came out. I'm thinking about this. Wow, 15 years ago this event came out. No, seriously, it has been 15 freaking years. What event is it? World War Hulk. Yep, that's cover for the damn thing. Now, you might be thinking, okay, like, what issues are in this book? Well, you have the Prelude, the main miniseries, the issues 106 to 111, Incredible Hulk Volume 2, Iron Man, I believe this was Volume 4, issues 19 and 20, Avengers Initiative 4 through 5, Irredeemable Ant-Man number 10, World War Hulk X-Men 1 through 3, Ghost Rider, I think it was like Volume 6, 12, 13, Heroes for Hire 11, 15, Punisher War Journal, Volume number 12, World War Hulk Gamma Corps, 4-issue miniseries, Frontline, 6 issues, War Aftermath one-shot, Damage Control 1 through 3, this was the 3rd volume for the series, Warbound, which happened with him afterwards, and that was it. Now, these books I'm not going to cover here. The main miniseries, the Iron Man book, and the World War Hulk X-Men, which that's been deemed non-canon by the event itself because it's almost like basically the whole point of this event was a complete waste of time. That's my personal guess anyways. Yes, now here's the interesting thing when it comes to the Incredible Hulk books. Now, the issues themselves are written by Greg Pak, the guy who also writes the mini-series. Most of it does focus on Hulk. Hulk is simply put, basically, these whole like 6 issues are focused on the Warbound, while else focused on Hercules. And you could say these issues are basically a backdoor pilot to the book that replaced this book, Incredible Hercules, which lasts 30 issues, by the way. Yep, and that most of what happened in the book. Now, as for Initiative, that one was mostly done by a different person. I'm trying to remember who. I don't think it was Slott. Now, you had Heroes for Hire. These 5 issues, believe it or not, were in fact the final 5 issues of the book. Issue 13 was infamous at the time it was released because of its cover. What was on the cover, you might ask? Well, it was simply put basically the 3 female members of the group, Misty Knight, Colleen Wing, and the female Tarantula. No, unrelated to DC's one, where they're being covered by tentacles. Implied tentacle rape. Yep. Now, Peter David writes the World Breaker, basically one-shot, which, simply put, the best way to describe it is that it's just basically a prelude to the very event itself. That's mostly put what the book is. Of course, there's the main miniseries, obviously. Of course, it kind of basically recaps the basically Hulk's battles people over the years. And then you have a short story from Amazing Fantasy Volume 215, which basically is it's the first appearance of Amadeus Cho. He's a character in this event. Yep. Also, the Incredible Hulk issues also feature appearance by the Champions. Yeah, they reunite for some reason in this book. Yep. Now, Pac himself, like I said, does the Incredible Hulk issues, mind you. Yes, he does. You could say mostly it's focused on Amadeus Cho, the Warbound. It focuses on various characters. You could say it's a spotlight book, which is kind of odd, the fact he did it. The Iron Man issue I'm not going to discuss because I have technically discussed this issue already. Well, this issue plus 19 and that Iron Man Directive Shield trade. So I'm going to skip over these issues and just move on. The Irredeemable Ant-Man, mostly put for that one, is simply put Ant-Man witnessing the big thing with that one. It was that he witnessed the Hulk basically throwing Iron Man through Avengers Tower. And him getting injured by Hulk's army. And then him becoming arrested. And I think that was the final issue of the book, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check here. No, did last for 2 more issues before the book got canceled. Yep. And who wrote the book? Mostly written by Robert Kingsman. Now, there's also the Frontline book because apparently, like a lot of Marvel events had this Frontline miniseries. Civil War had one. This one did. Siege had it, and so Secret Invasion. Basically, 4 events had one. Mostly put for this one, this is basically done by Paul Jenkins' 5-issue miniseries. This mostly put is basically the press reporting on the whole Hulk invasion of Manhattan. Is there any like big character moments in here? Not really, no. Mostly put is focused on Ben Urich. And it was the second ever Frontline miniseries. They did one for Siege as well, except it wasn't called Frontline. It was known as Siege Embodied. That I felt was a really good book. Yeah, I love the Siege Embodied book. The Frontline, that was put in an anthology book. But also put at the end of that miniseries, Kirkman did write the issue. That book mostly had the first appearance of the online newspaper Frontline, which was formed by Ben Urich. And get this, the staff of that paper were mostly put people who had worked for Daily Bugle, who had quit the company because of the stuff Jameson did. Well, mostly put the reason why they quit was because they didn't like the guy who actually bought Daily Bugle, Daniel Bennett. They did not like the stuff he was doing with the newspaper. He pretty much turned into a tabloid. Yes, the Daily Bugle, one of the most respected newspapers in our comics, turned into a freaking tabloid. So pretty much a lot of the most popular staff at the Daily Bugle quit. And then pretty much like during the events of the Gauntlet, Elektra destroyed the original Daily Bugle building. And then, of course, basically the shares were somehow bought by by Jameson when he was while he's being mayor of New York City. Yes, and he gave the shares to Robbie Robinson, basically renamed the Frontline to Daily Bugle. Yep. Yeah, it's mostly like an online newsletter, mostly anyways. But not in the focus of like Dave Meltzer. Yeah. Now, the Ghost Rider book is interesting to say the least because Ghost Rider has very rarely encountered the Hulk. Why in the world that he's here? He just happened to be in New York at this point. By the way, the book at this point was written by Daniel Way. Yes. Surprisingly, there's no Ghost Rider by Daniel Way book. Which, if I'm thinking, that's interesting. Why the heck would I not do that for? I have no idea. No, seriously, I have no freaking idea of why in the world they decided to do this for. Yes. Yeah, and that's who pretty much wrote the book at the time. Was, in fact, Daniel Way, which was interesting to say the least. Yeah, as for why he wrote the book, I have no idea. But it's a two-part, it's Apocalypse Too Soon. And the Ghost Rider of this book is Johnny Blaze, because most of the volumes do feature Johnny Blaze as the main Ghost Rider, with the exception of Volume 3 from the 90s. That's the only one that doesn't, that features Daniel Ketch as the main Ghost Rider. Yeah, it's mostly put Johnny Blaze just somehow, just by sheer coincidence, getting involved with the whole... He runs into the Hulk, which I found that be interesting. Yep, it's a very interesting two-parter. I was not a fan of the ending of this run, which basically Jason took a book, I think was not long after this, and had a retcon where, that Johnny Blaze got not from Mephisto, but this angel named Zor-El. Yes. The Heroes for Hire book, the first two issues published in this trade were done by Zeb Wells, and then for some reason he gets replaced by a different writer. Unknown why, he just did. Now, this is mostly with their involvement, and of course getting involved with the female Scorpion, and then fighting basically the forces of the Hulk in the whole crossover. The end, issue 15, was the final issue. It's actually the only book to get canceled with this event. Yeah, it's the only one. Irredeemable Ant-Man ended not long after this one, but if you think about it, like, 2 books were ended because of this event. Irredeemable Ant-Man and Heroes for Hire. Excuse me. The Heroes for Hire book was really fun. Yeah. Also, with this trade here, there's technically only one more book left to go for Heroes for Hire Volume 2, and that's it. I have not covered Volume 2 yet. I haven't. I might cover in the future, mostly. I did cover the initial 5 issues, the opening arc, when I did the trade. Oh, here's the cover right here that got basically Marvel out of flack. Yeah, this very cover right here. Issue number 13. Because 2 issues right after this cover came out, the book got canceled. Oh, it wasn't Female Tarantula, it was actually Black Cat. And yeah, it's tentacle rape. Because you see Colleen Wing basically, her zipper mostly down, and basically it's all sweating, and yeah, it's tentacle rape. Oh, and they are changing the book, but no tentacle rape. Yeah, it's mostly put forces the Hulk doing this. Yep. And by the way, Shang-Chi is actually part of this group, and he takes Female Tarantula away with him. And here's the weird thing. This Tarantula wouldn't have probably get into a mini-series with 6 guns, and that was it for her. Yep. Paladin has appeared in this mini-series too. My guess is Mara probably ended this book, probably because it wasn't selling too well. That's my personal guess anyways, of why the book ended. Yes. But I actually like the book. Unknown why they switch writers. I might ask Zeb Wells if I can't see him next month. Yeah. Oh, in case you're curious, who wrote War Hulk X-Men, it's Crystal Gage. I'm also talking about this book in the Hulk vs. X-Men trade, which did collect this very mini-series. Now, there's also the Gamma Corps book, which has introduced the Gamma Corps, which, here's the thing. After this mini-series, this group would never be seen again until Gary Duggan did Hulk in during his Omega Hulk run, which had these characters pretty much get powered. Also, I had to point this out though. First issue is a clear homage to Avengers number 4. Yep, it clearly is, because by the way, one of the members is Glenn Talbot's brother. No, seriously. Yeah. And this mostly puts the formation of the Gamma Corps. And, like, after this event wrapped up, like, they did bring back the Gamma Corps, mostly put in the Dark Reign stuff for Greg Pak. Yeah, and the thing is, like, this group, basically, after this miniseries wrapped up, they appeared in, like, Dark Reign Made Men and that one issue of Hulk, and that was it for the original group. These are members: Gray, Griffin, Mess, Mr. Gideon, and Prodigy. Griffin is from the Circus of Crime. But one of the members, I believe, was Gray, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he was the... Yeah, he's Lieutenant Brian Talbot. He's the brother of Glenn Talbot, a guy who constantly held the Hulk. Griffin used to be Clown from the Circus of Crime. Interesting. Mess himself is basically the group's abomination. Yeah, and Mr. Mr. Gideon, he is, believe it or not, Jim Wilson's... Jim Wilson was a character from the Incredible Hulk book who actually died of AIDS. This is his father. This is the Falcon's brother. Yes, why the heck he's involved behind the Hulk, I don't know. It's kind of weird. And Prodigy is just a character who was basically aged by the leader. Yeah, I thought this miniseries would be really good. It doesn't do much, but it's mostly put the group assembled to take on the Hulk. That's mostly the purpose of the Gamma Corps. But after this, they apparently went. They apparently the next target after they try to hunt the Hulk. They decided to go and hunt the Illuminati for some reason at the end of the miniseries, and nothing. No, seriously, like, nothing is done with the group afterwards. Like, they make 2 appearances, and that's it for the Gamma Corps. Interesting idea. My guess is the reason why Gary Duggan had the group depowered, because Marvel had no plans for these characters. No, seriously, they had no plans. By far, it's one of those miniseries I do recommend people check out because it's really good. Yeah, maybe tying to Wolverine Hulk, but it was really good to read. Yeah, getting past that issue there. Avengers Initiative. This is done by, I think it was Dan Slott writing the book at this point. Let me take a look here about this, because I think it was Slott who wrote this book. Let's see. The initial series, yeah, it was Dan Slott and Crystal Gage, the whole book. Yes, they were the main writers of the book at this point. Yep. And they had this group known as the Shadow Edition that pop up in the book just for this story arc. Yeah. Yeah, and here's the thing. The series had just started, and we already have a tie-in. A 2-issue tie-in for this event. Yes. I'm going to discuss this more for Avengers Initiative when I discuss their first trade paperback. Yep. Excuse me. And a lot of these issues, with the exception of Hulk, everything else who's in this event just had for 2 issues, and that was it. With the exception of the miniseries, it's like 2, and that's it. Well, yeah. By the way, they call the story Embodied, which is basically also the same title of their last miniseries they had. Because mostly, but when their frontline appears, they mostly appear in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man. They've been doing that for a long time. Yep. Yeah, and then we have 14, yeah, definitely done by Zeb Wells. I think the final issue was done by somebody else. Yes. Heroes for Hire is not a bad series per se. It's just that, well, this run is mostly forgettable. And here we have the final issue. Yeah, this issue right here was the last issue they published because with this issue, the book got canceled. No, seriously, the book got canceled. Why it got canceled? Probably because of that cover. Yep. And the group split up and did their own things afterwards. Yep. Yeah. Initiative, a fun book. More World Hulk here. Damage Control was basically like, I think it was an Aftermath one-shot when they introduced Tim Foster, who became sort of a recurring character in the Marvel Universe. He still occasionally appears. If you don't know who Tim Foster is, he's the nephew of the previous Goliath, Tom Foster, who got murdered by the clone of Thor. And he wanted revenge against Tony Stark, and it was dropped like within like the same issue after he joined Damage Control. Yep. Let's see, get past the Frontline stuff, which really good miniseries. I love the Frontline stuff. Punisher seems like the most surprising thing, aside from Ghost Rider. Yeah, here's a little fun fact for you. 3rd ever event the Punisher comic has ever tied into. You were thinking, was tied to Acts of Vengeance? Surprisingly, no, not that I could tell. The first thing that was involved was Onslaught. And after that, Civil War 1, this book, Secret Invasion, Dark Reign, and that was it. No, seriously, that was it. As for why one issue, I'm not sure why. It's by far one of only 2 that only had 1 issue. It seems complete random at best. It's mostly put just Punisher trying to find some minor forces of well, the Hulk, and that's it. Yep. Just trying to hurry up here. I really gotta go to the bathroom. Damage Control is mostly put the miniseries for that one. It's just, well, them trying to clean up New York, trying to organize a way to rebuild New York after the whole Hulk stuff. Also, the final issue, first appearance is a car, still around this very day. 111, the final issue of the book, which, for Incredible Hulk Volume 2, all this issue is, it just leads into Incredible Hercules. Oh, briefly it was called Incredible Herc for one issue, then was changed to the last issue. Yep. Yeah, and as for the Warbound miniseries, they include What If War Hulk, it's just an alternate version. This way he kills the heroes. 16's doing that. Yes. I have to stop here. I'm sorry.